Hello and welcome to Twerk, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing people, the fantastic jobs they do and the paths that led them to where they are today. I'm here with Rose. Hi Rose.
Hello.
Could you tell the listener what it is you do for a living?
Yes, so I am a nutritionist and I specialise in helping women with hormonal issues.
Oh my God. I mean, that's a whole podcast in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to go into that. But before we do that, we're going to track all the way back and we're going to talk about little Rose. Mm-hmm. So what were you like? What were you into when you were younger? Oh. Teeny tiny.
Food, cooking. I mean, I know it sounds obvious. I was, yeah, I always was. But it was, food and cooking, being outdoors, those sorts of things. I was quite an outdoorsy kid, but I kind of was also happy in my own company. And my kind of biggest memories are in the kitchen cooking and being given things
with your mum or your parents.
Yeah, or very much my own, but kind of doing things like putting the wrong ingredients in when I cooking a custard and made it green, or I forgot to put sugar in it, or that sort of thing. So I just playing around with things that creative in that kind of way, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so then at school, what were your sort of favourite subjects then?
It was much more kind of art-based things. Yeah. Always really struggled with like the academic stuff. And so
honestly, do you know what? It comes up so much.
Yeah.
Unless I'm podding like a sort of vet or a doctor or something like that, or a teacher. Mm. Yeah, and obviously you've got kids and I've got kids, and it really makes you how many people just don't gel with academia.
No, exactly, and I think there was just so much pressure around it from school, wasn't there? And so
I think there still is. Okay, so more creative subjects, and then did you go on to college?
Yeah, so I went on and did food tech and psychology and business studies for my sixth form years, which was, it was fine, but I think I was at that stage where I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I love food. So I love food. But it just came from a love of food. Everything that I've done has come from really fundamentally being super interested in food. And
you're not you don't look Italian, but it's almost like you've got, do you know what I mean? It's that sort of
just like in your blood sort of thing. It's always been like that. And it's not like, my parents enjoyed cooking and stuff, but it wasn't as though they were really enthusiastic at that kind of level. But I just really, it was, when you felt like you're in your groove when you're doing something.
Yeah.
And that's how food felt for me.
Wow. So food tech and psychology.
Yeah, which again, I hadn't even thought about it until I say that now, but it's actually, when you then think about what I do now, there is such a huge psychological element to it.
I was going to say, that's full circle. So, okay, so at the time you did those without really a view of what to do next?
No, and then I took some time off, did some travelling, as you do when you finish sixth form, and then decided that I did want to do nutrition. And I literally was flicking through, I remember really vividly, university brochures, like, what sounds interesting? My mum and dad say I have to do something that's going to make me some money, so what could I do?
Yeah.
And then came across nutrition and I was reading about it and I thought, actually this sounds really interesting. But I wasn't academic, so I didn't have any sciences, and you needed science because it's a science degree. So I had to then go on and do a foundation year in science at university.
Oh, gosh.
Which was obviously, in my mind, having my track record of how I was with science was slightly nerve-wracking.
Yes.
But it was great and I loved it. And I think it was when as soon as you know why you're doing something, you apply yourself to it and you can do it. And so I was doing chemistry and physics and maths and science and all biology and all these different things that I hated and really struggled with at school. I was then really enjoying because it had a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then went on to do a degree at the University of Surrey in nutrition.
Okay.
While I was studying, met my husband, and so I then found a job back here, and that was actually working in child weight management.
Wow.
So it was interesting, and I think it kind of shapes who you become.
So this was for the NHS, was it?
It's a public health funded initiative for people. So it was a free service. So working with families with children who were overweight. So
over and under, or
over, just all overweight.
So in that sort of 50th percentile thing for the
Yeah, you know, they were quite.
So did children automatically get referred to you at that time at a certain weight, or was it optional? Or
I think they were referred,
right.
and then you know, in some cases they were told they had to do it because it was
right.
a sort of safeguarding thing, and in other cases it was, you know, there's the option to do this. It could help, you know, by the doctors. We were trying to get doctors on board to kind of refer to us.
Yeah.
And you know, it was really good, but more often than not, there was so much other stuff going on that was causing the health issue. It wasn't just about, oh, they need to be told what to eat. You know, it was whole family dynamics.
Neglect and various things. Yeah. Wow. Gosh.
Yeah. So I went in at the deep end.
It
was quite intense.
That is not for the faint-hearted.
No, yeah.
Wow.
You know, it was rewarding, but difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you doing that for?
Not too long. I think I was probably there for about a year, and then me and my other half decided to then move to London. And so I actually managed to transfer to another unit in London of the same company. But I wasn't happy there. I wasn't feeling challenged, and I think I realised that, you know, there was so little you can really do to help those people. They need so much other support, and started looking at other avenues, other areas that you can work as a nutritionist. And when I was at university, I also joined a committee called the Food and Wine Society.
Brilliant.
Which was great.
Yeah.
And
ulterior motives.
Yes. But... yeah. You know, there's just the food enjoyment side of it. And it's one of the girls that I was on that with happened to be working for a company in London called the Good Eating Company. And so I just messaged her and I said, you don't happen to have a nutritionist on board, or do you need one? And so she then spoke with people and said, oh, no, I don't think we are. And then literally a week later said, you're not still looking for that, are you? Because looking for work is actually, we are now looking for a nutritionist.
Oh, so you really planted the seed then?
Yeah, I think possibly. And or whether it's, you know, just one of those weird sliding doors moments where I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And
you put yourself in the right place at the right time.
And yes, and so then I got the job there, and it was amazing because there was nothing in place at that time. So they basically said, create it, tell us what you want it to become.
So what was that business doing then at the time?
So they were providing workplace catering.
Right.
And for kind of quite big companies in and around London, and some in Ireland. And my role was really to be a kind of an add-on to businesses. So a business would take on a contract with the company, my company, and then I would be running initiatives. I would be working with the chefs on the menus, thinking about how we can put labelling across, you know, nudges to get people to make healthier choices.
Yeah.
And then running campaigns, you know, informative campaigns. So very much kind of public health messaging. And again, it was amazing because they were just very much like, it's your thing, you work it out.
Well, you've literally created a job, haven't you? So you had to figure the job out.
Yeah, figure out, you know, and it was over 30 different companies across London and Ireland. So it was trying to kind of do this huge initiative and touching on so many different people's lives. So that felt amazing.
And I guess that's also as the whole sort of food allergies, everything's exploding, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually really interesting seeing how I could take things I was doing with the children and transfer it into an adult's activity.
Really? Well, I was going to say, you've gone from hardcore childcare things to corporate life. Yeah. That's very different, but obviously not.
But there's so much transferable stuff, and I think it's the key thing I love about what I do is that when you explain something in the right way, and you see the click and that understanding of, I understand why now. Yeah. And this is where the massive gap is in healthcare and in nutrition particularly, is we're not telling people why. We're not explaining, you know, this happens when you eat this. And that then leads to this. There's so much messaging around, you eat badly, you get fat, you get ill later. But if you can explain, you know, about energy, sleep, mood, all the other things that come into play, then people can really get in touch with why they're doing it. So I was in London and I was running campaigns and initiatives, working with chefs everywhere, and it was great. And, you know, again, it was a real opportunity for growth, and I was lucky to have a really supportive boss who kind of encouraged, you know, me to kind of just do that. So that was amazing. And then I had my daughter.
Okay. Oh, so you got married at some point as well in that line?
No, we got married afterwards.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So...
Sorry, I just wasn't sure if I'd missed or we'd missed, because this happens a lot when I pod people. They go, actually, I've just missed a whole chunk of time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
No. So I was working for the Good Eating Company.
In London, commuting.
Yeah, commuting.
Getting heavily pregnant.
Yeah. Got pregnant, and then had my little girl 2 weeks before COVID lockdown.
Oh God! When you said 5 years, I hadn't even done the maths of that.
Yeah. So that whole sort of first year was obviously lockdown.
Yes.
We were also in the process of moving home, so it was with that to move back up here because we'd been in Hertfordshire before that. And
did you move during COVID as well?
Yeah.
Then?
So just towards the end we moved here. So we've been here 4 years roughly now.
Yeah.
But before we moved, the company, obviously, Workplace Catering, was taking a lot of hits.
Yes,
things.
yeah.
Over the years we'd worked together, worked at the Good Eating Company, had taken on an assistant, and she was fantastic. But then when I was looking to return to work, the company basically said, well, we're going to score you against your assistant, and whoever scores highest will be given the role, because there's actually only enough space really for one nutritionist.
Oh my God.
And they dropped in a few things that I knew that she had more qualifications with that they were looking for, and so I thought, well, I can read between the lines here, I can see what you're doing.
Yeah. And she was also cheaper. Yeah,
cheaper, didn't have a daughter, so she was, or any children, so she was much more committed to the role, or not committed even, just had more flexibility.
Available. Yeah.
And so I just thought, you know what, I'm not being scored against, because I can see where this is going.
Yeah.
And so I volunteered for redundancy.
Yeah.
And so that all happened, at that 1 year mark after Bella being born.
But this is still quite COVID-y as well,
yeah,
though,
still
isn't
COVID.
it? Still moving house.
Yeah, so then that kind of really pushed me over the edge to be like, well, we're definitely going to move then.
Yeah.
And and then I think that was a really difficult time, because I was stopping breastfeeding, so you have all of the hormonal changes that happen with that. Although I was trained in nutrition, I'd never been told anything specific about women's health. So although I ate well, I wasn't eating well for what I needed as a woman at that stage in my life.
Yeah.
I've ended up feeling really, really low, but noticing a real cycle in how that was happening. It was coming and going.
So you at least noticed that then?
Yeah, I was really aware of that. I was like, this is not all the time. It's just certain weeks I'll wake up and it is just like there is a ball and chain on my ankle and a cloud of rain following me everywhere I go. And I just was crying for no reason and messing up silly things, when I was supposed to be doing something, forgetting things, and felt like I was just losing it. And obviously very little support from doctors. I was just told that I could either take the pill again or go on an antidepressant for 3 or 4 days every month. And I just thought, this is just ridiculous. There's got to be another way. And with my background, then started to sort of look into alternatives, and that's when I came across the whole world of women's health and hormonal issues, and what I then realised I had, which was, I think, potentially a combination between PMDD and also that hormonal drop that comes after stopping breastfeeding.
So PMDD, for people that don't know.
So that's basically so it's basically PMS on steroids. So it was a really hard time, but kind of realising and recognising that, hang on, this is hormonal, and then doing more research and then realising, well, actually, there's things I can do about this. And then I decided, I came across a woman called Lisa Hendrickson-Jack, based in Canada. And she basically works in fertility awareness, and she was training practitioners to use it as part of what they're doing. So basic fertility awareness, to kind of give a description, is it sounds like it's all about trying to get pregnant, but it's absolutely not. It's about being aware of your fertile signs, your cycle. You know, the different phases, what's normal, what's not, being able to identify when you are fertile and when you're not fertile. But from my perspective, it's also about trying to acknowledge and realise where the abnormalities are.
Yeah.
So that then, rather than, I think so many women feel like their period is just a pain, a hindrance. Actually, we can use it as a vital sign. So it's as important as like a blood test or your weight or anything. If when you're tracking your cycle, if there are abnormalities, if you're experiencing things like period pain, PMS, you know, all of those different things, that is your body telling you something's not right. And that is what I learned through Lisa, was about how to track your cycle in the first place. And then how to kind of decode what your cycle is telling you.
And what your body's telling you.
Yeah. And so then once you have that information, you can apply food to correct it.
Yeah.
So, and then what's amazing is that rather than your period being a pain, it's actually this window into all this data and information about your health that you can do yourself.
That's like that is, you are describing the most ultimate reframing exercise known to womankind.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is you're on a mission with that, because let's face it, everyone sees their period as such a
yes, we're so unlucky. I mean, my granny used to call it the curse.
Yes.
And I think, you know, that is exactly how we all see it as women. We are cursed. We have to have this for all our lives. But actually, I now see it as something which we can really harness to use to our own strength, to be able to not only kind of identify health issues and, you know, pair up physical and mental symptoms together along with what you're seeing with your cycle and then fix it, but also, you know, keep track of, you know, whether we are entering perimenopause or, you know, what stage of our cycle are we in, and so therefore what should I be doing that week within our business and our work to get the most out of it, you know, because they always say that estrogen is like your Beyonce hormone. So when you're...
Oh, I like that. I've never heard that.
Around the time that you're nearing ovulation, your estrogen levels are higher. You want to go out. You want to socialise. You like your husband a bit more. Like all these things. And that is because estrogen is driving you to go out and do it. And so then when you're
feeling good.
Yeah, you're feeling confident. So then when it comes to your work, you can apply that to, okay, well, I need to do those outgoing things.
Have those meetings. Yes,
I need
those
to
presentations.
record that social media content when I'm in that phase, because I know that I'm going to be more in the frame of mind for it. So you can lean into these different phases, and you can actually just generally lean into your cycle more and kind of feel like it's actually there to assist you rather than be this huge hindrance that we have to deal with. And so it was just a massive sort of, as you say, like reframe on myself as a woman. And because I had been on the pill for 10 years before that, I had been completely out of touch with it. And I think
you have no idea what your cycle is.
We're really let down by healthcare because there's this whole public health message around nutrition, the way we should be eating. But what they're not telling us is that as women, your nutritional needs change greatly throughout different phases of your life. Puberty,
well, and throughout the month,
fertility, fertility, postnatal, then perimenopause, then postmenopause. All those different times your needs change, and so often women will come to me and say, "Well, I haven't changed anything, but it's just everything's, you know, I'm feeling awful, like I'm gaining weight, and I'm not changing anything." And it's like, because your body is changing, like the chemicals within you are changing, and you need to change with it, and so. It's a whole thing.
It's a beast. I'm looking at you thinking, this is a beast. Yeah. How do you even attempt? Well, we're obviously discussing it. Yeah. How do you even attempt to tackle it?
Well, and I think what I have found, and whenever I work with women, the first thing we do is it's education. It's before we even talk about food, you need to learn what's going on in your body and why, and that then brings for them. It's like they always say, why has no one told me this before?
Yeah.
this is stuff I should have been told when I was 12.
Or it's just innate stuff.
Yeah.
That we should just know as women about ourselves.
And mums should know and be able to tell their children and tell their daughters. And I think it's so sad that, you know, I think that I'm really hopeful that the next generation won't have that. But, you know, everyone sort of up from us is completely misinformed about our bodies. And we're just neglected to have all of this information. We've been so let down. Which is why as you could, I can't get my words out. It's just because I get so frustrated with it.
Yeah.
Because this is just not complicated stuff, but it's just like whenever a problem arises, it's take a pill. It's never like, oh well, actually, yeah, let's look for the root cause, or let me tell you about what's going on with your body. Once I've then worked with somebody for a while and they've got the food in place, and we're like, yeah, she's happy with it, I'm happy with it. That's all okay. We can then see what's left on the surface with the symptoms. What's still showing through.
There's probably loads with everyone, isn't there? You've almost got to get to them one at a time.
It's just having to layer it. So there's the education, then you put the food on, and then anything the food hasn't fixed. So anything, if we look at your food and we think, your food, I can't fault it. It's looking really, really good now. And you've got the lifestyle stuff right as well. So that's all good. So then you can target a couple of specific supplements if they're needed, to just kind of cover up or fix any other information that's outstanding.
Maybe because some people's bodies just don't retain some things.
As we get older, we don't absorb some nutrients as well, but it's also the fact that foods aren't as nutrient dense as they used to be, so you then have to bring in supplements. So I'm not against supplements at all, and I do think there's a place for them, good quality supplements, not ones with loads of bulking stuff, proteins in it, whatever. So I do always try and say to clients, like, I will always try and send you the best possible ones, but I will always try with food first.
Yeah.
So that then at the end of the time...
Also, that's got to be cheaper as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Food has got... If we got to the point that food is not cheaper than supplements, then we're fucked.
Well, exactly.
Aren't we? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what? But it probably is. That's the...
Yeah.
It's sort of for the pharmaceutical industry's power, though, isn't it? That it's gone, well, you know, it's cheaper just to buy the supplement than it is just to actually
and it
buy some food.
It just goes back to the whole pill culture and the whole, you know, just wanting a quick fix. But I do think if they're necessary, they're necessary. And I'd much rather a client be on a couple of supplements rather than be on a synthetic pill, which is potentially causing other side effects. Because then that's the other thing, you know, if they go on the HRT, you go on the pill, you go on this other, whatever this new pill that's come out, you know, there are side effects and they aren't fixing the problem. Whereas taking magnesium or another vitamin, let's say, is potentially going to fix the problem, because the problem is that, you know, you needed that extra bit of that nutrient for your body to kind of work better. Whereas a medication is probably suppressing something, or it's, you know, it's covering something up.
Yeah. So, okay, so we haven't actually even finished that conversation about leaving work with all that going on. So what obviously what you do now, but how did it come about? What were you doing anything before then? What happened?
So obviously I was made redundant, and I then actually dabbled in helping a local woman in Southwold set up a co-working space.
Okay.
Because I've been a part of a great co-working space in Harpenden where we were living before, and I thought, oh, great to have something like this here.
Yeah.
But I just was really missing nutrition. It just felt like this isn't me. I need to go back to what I wanted to do. So then I specialised, trained. I also opened up a clinic locally, just doing general nutrition support for people. And then it's really been in the last couple of years I've sort of said, no, it's women's nutrition. That's you know, I can help other people,
of course,
absolutely, but to really help the women, I need to be specific for them, so that I can put all my time and energy into that rather than kind of floating around the edges. And so it's been hard, and I think I was probably starting to pick up online clients, and the business was really starting to grow in the year before my son was born.
Yes, yeah.
And now I'm 1 year postnatal, and so obviously had to really take my foot off the gas for that. And so I'm now in that position of needing to regrow everything and really think about, okay, now I've finished having children. Where do I go? Where do I want this to grow? And I really...
He's still young though. He's only one though, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's
probably like in another year or two you'll
really into it. Yeah. But that's the difficulty, and I think for women, you know, I know if you're business minded and you're ambitious, it's really hard. There is so much guilt in it because you are, you know, I feel very passionate. I hate the word passionate.
Yeah.
But feel very passionate about what I do. And I really want to help women like that. Ultimately, if I could do it for free, I would. But I can't because I need to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I live and breathe it. It's not a job for me. It's a passion project. And so, you know, it's the last year has been hard because it's been there in my mind the whole time.
You've got literally a baby.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely
and
love
young,
having my children and want to be with them as much as possible, but also trying to kind of claw back to refocusing in on business and this other side of me, the other side of the mum bit. Which is
the you bit,
the
you that's you.
Yeah, exactly.
There isn't a mum and there isn't a wife and there isn't anything else. It's just you as you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of where I'm up to now, and it's sort of just I'm looking to try and set up a charity initiative.
Wow.
Which would be much more about the education piece.
Yes.
And trying to get into schools, get into communities to educate women about their bodies. Men and women, we all have a set point, which is basically a place where our body feels good and it's happy, it doesn't feel under threat, doesn't feel starved, doesn't feel overfed. Our energy in versus our energy out is kind of balanced. And it's like, okay, this is, you know, we feel in equilibrium.
And that's like looks different for everybody.
And that will look different for everybody.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a size 6 for everybody, or size 8 or 10 or 12 or 14. But not everybody's happy about where their set point is. And you can shift it, but it's very hard. And so what you often find is that women in their earlier years, and, you know, taking myself as an example, when I was in London and I was on the pill, I had no idea about my cycle. I was training really hard. I was eating very healthily, what I thought was, you know, very healthily, but probably not good for a woman, you know, not enough protein, not enough fat, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So then when I came off the pill, I was in a smaller body, but I had no period. So you're like, well, actually, then that's not right. And the way I got my period to come back more consistently was by slowing down on the exercise, still training because I love it, enjoy it, but also thinking about trying to eat more good quality foods and not fasting in the morning and doing things like that.
Oh God, fasting is huge at the moment, isn't it?
And
it's been for years now.
It's just for women, when you're still cycling, it can be so detrimental.
Yeah.
And so I think there's this real disconnect between what we feel is our ideal body weight versus where our body is actually at its healthiest and thriving. And so if you were to say to a woman like, okay, so you can either be a size 6 and be really, really low for a couple of days every month, have awful period pain, or you could be a size whatever, a little bit more.
10, I mean, God forbid. Yeah.
Plus,
12, I mean, God.
That's all healthy ranges.
Yeah.
Plus, but actually be happy, have good energy, you know, have good relationships, feel like you can show up at work every day or show up generally with everybody.
Get achievement out of your life rather than feeling just paranoid about everything.
About what size you are. And that's where I think if we can feed that into women early on, if we can get them focusing more on their health from that measure rather than what size you are, I just think that could be really powerful. The studies have been done to show that there's, on average, women lose 9 days a year because of menstrual hormone related issues.
Yeah, but as in sick days, they don't go to work.
Sick days, or
I bet it'd be more than 9.
Yeah, and you know you've got presenteeism and absenteeism. So
yeah,
people being at work but then not actually being able to function properly.
Oh God, that'd be way more than 9. Wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And then you think about what that cost is. So it's
from them just not being.
Not being able to function, and it's not to say you shouldn't have women in the workplace because they're a liability. Absolutely not, because actually if you teach women about the phases of their cycle and how they can then lean into that, you could actually get them functioning better, way better than baseline, if you know what I mean. I want it to be something that as many women as possible have an awareness of. So I want that to kind of grow, and hope that I'll be able to kind of scale that in the coming years, if it all goes to plan.
Well, I mean, look, I cannot see how that can't be successful. I can't. But equally, I'm acutely aware, like you say, you've also got to be kind to yourself, because
it's hard when you've got to be in your bonnet about something.
I know, but you're going to end up... I'm speaking from experience. You'll end up lost. First thing I said to you, didn't it, with what I'm trying to do. I drive myself mad most days. Yeah. But equally, I haven't got a 1-year-old either. You know, don't get me wrong, I still have massive mum guilt about other stuff.
Yeah, but it never goes, does it?
I know. So, yeah, be kind to yourself, won't you?
Yeah.
God, loads ahead for you then. Wow.
Yes, hopefully there's loads ahead.
There is definitely loads ahead.
It's a funny time, but I'm excited for the future.
Yeah.
It's just exactly as you said, you feel like you're going mad most days and a bit overwhelmed by.
But equally, you're using all of the things you've done in your career to now carve out this multifaceted approach, which I think is brilliant, because there isn't. Let's face it, with jobs and everything now, I don't think there is a one. I think having a multifaceted, I think, is absolutely where it's at. And I think definitely for women, and I think women working with women, I think that's right as well. But like you say, you've every part of your career prior to now is impacting where you're taking this, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. It sort of forms all of it. And, you obviously learn so much along the way that you can then just apply to it. And I think it's when you've got a real love for what you do, it just drives it, doesn't it?
It does.
It's just keeping that self-belief when you're knee deep or like waist deep, whatever, in nappies and crying children and all those things. But yeah.
Well, in the school playground, you've got it all going on right now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, look, I'm really excited for that. I think future's bright for you. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be easy, I'm sure. No. but it's absolutely there for you to go and grasp, definitely.
Oh.
Right, I'm going to ask you my 3 final questions, and then I'm going to bloody leave you alone, otherwise I'm just going to keep talking at you. Okay, so question 1 is always just life advice you would give your younger self. Any version of your younger self, but is there anything you think you needed to know when you were younger?
I think it's got to be something around not worrying about what everybody else thinks.
I know.
I've wasted so much time and not done so many things because I worry about what people think.
Yeah.
Still do.
It's generational.
Yeah.
And it's just society. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crippling.
I think women carry the expectation of the world, I think, in some respects. Then question 2 is, do you think there's any advice that your older self, so let's say 70-year-old Rose, what do you think she might say to you now?
Oh God. I'm hoping she's going to say something
God, look at this amazing business you've built. I'm so proud of you.
Don't worry, you're going to grow this amazing business and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think probably something like that.
Hopefully, she'll just be really chuffed. Okay, and then the last question is just, because I love like affirmations and mantras and all that, so if there's just a bit of advice that you just want to throw out there to everyone listening, things that you live and die by. There could be more than one.
Oh God, I should have known about these before I prepared. I think I remember when I was at university and I was going through. I was actually, funnily enough, going off. I tried to come off the pill, but I couldn't because I was just too anxious from the hormones and everything that came from that. Long story, won't go into it. But I saw a therapist, and he said to me to repeat a statement, and it was something along the lines of, "I trust my decisions. The decisions I make at the time are the right ones." Because it was obviously something I was dealing with. And he made me do tapping as I did it.
Wow.
And I just kept repeating it. And I just burst into tears after a few times saying it. But I think it's so true. And I think if we can just all stay true to the decisions we make. And
trust yourself.
Trust yourself. and know that you were trying to make the right decision, whether it ends up being the right one or not.
Yeah,
just the
you're
decisions
doing the
you make
best you could at the time.
You were doing it with the information you had.
Yeah.
Decisions you make at the time are the right ones. And so something along those lines, I think, probably.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Because you can spend so much time questioning that.
Yeah, and it's very, again, really female trait, isn't it?
Yeah, I think probably something along that lines.
That's amazing. I think that's brilliant. On that, I'm going to say thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's been nice.
If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and/or this role, then please go to our website www.twerk.org. The link is in this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.